Hi and welcome to this multi-part video series called Phone Right. My name is David Anthony. Now, if this is your first time here, welcome, and do consider subscribing because this channel is all about helping you go further and faster in business and in life. So let's get started.
Good morning, Travelways Hotel. This is Jane Watson.
Oh, yes, I'd like the price of a double family room, please.
Well, fine. Thanks very much for calling us. By the way, what date were you wanting the room from and how long are you planning to stay with us?
I'm sure you've got the message by now. You'll have noticed that whenever the caller spoke, the person on the receiving end of the call was applying performance standard number 4A. That is, they were listening attentively. And to show that they were listening and to build the relationship in the early part of the call, they were doing something else too. Every time their caller spoke, they listened, and then they applied the second part of Performance Standard 4. They responded with what we call a positive stroke. They did that to build the relationship and to let the caller know that they really had listened. Here's a quick run-through of the positive strokes they used. Fine, thanks very much for calling, Mr. Dunn. It's good to hear from you, Paul. Well, thanks for calling, Belinda. Well, fine, thanks very much for calling us. You see, acknowledging they've listened, building the relationship or rapport, and really making that caller feel important. And it's also letting the caller know that they've done the right thing by calling you. Now, that last point is critical. You see, it's vitally important that we understand that callers calling you do have a choice. It's a competitive world out there. They didn't have to call you, and they don't have to keep on calling you either. I was on an airline travelling overseas to a speaking engagement recently where the first officer came on the intercom once we'd reached our cruising altitude. She, yes, that's right, in this case the first officer was a lady, said this.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is your first officer, Cowan Rajowski, speaking with you from the flight deck of the McDonnell Douglas DC-10. I'd like to take time out to thank you for flying Continental Airlines this afternoon, because we recognize you had a choice.
Again, people who call you do have a choice. So thank them for taking it. Thank them for responding to your ads, or in other words, apply Performance Standard 4B. Give out positive strokes. But like Standard 4A, Performance Standard 4B doesn't just apply at the beginning of a call. It applies throughout the call. Listen in on these examples.
Well, it has a large freezer, and that's important for a large family like ours.
Yes, it certainly is, particularly with a large family. Incidentally, how large a family is the fridge for, Belinda?
Here's another example of Performance Standard 4B being applied later on in the call.
Well, mid-August actually, somewhere around the 16th.
Yes, that's one of the best times to visit, Cairns. By the way, once again, my name's Jane Watson and yours is...
Oh, yes, sorry, Sally Young.
Thanks, Sally. Now let's see.
Again, positively acknowledging what the caller said. Listen in on this example. I think you'll see just how important Performance Standard 4B really is.
Good afternoon, Kilcoy Mowing Service. This is David Hampshire.
Yeah, my name's Gordon Freeman, and I was wondering if you could give me your best price on the Speedy Cut Model 7 mower, please.
Well, fine. It's good to hear from you, Gordon. By the way, how'd you get to hear about us?
Well, I saw your ad in the Yellow Pages.
Well, we get a lot of people ringing from that ad, and of course, Speedy Cut 7's a really popular mower. How familiar are you with the main features of the mower, Gordon?
Did you hear that last positive stroke? In fact, there were two in the same breath. Listen again.
Well, we get a lot of people ringing from that ad, and of course, Speedy Cut 7's a really popular mower. How familiar are you with the main features of the mower, Gordon?
Now that's really letting the person know how good they are. It's letting them know that they're doing the right thing by ringing, the right thing by reading the ad, and the right thing for ringing about a Speedy Cut 7. You can understand how these positive strokes, delivered sincerely, will help you build up your potential customer. It is important, vitally so. And it's important to recognize that it must be sincere. You know, one time on a program I had a person say, "You want me to do that? I couldn't give out those positive stroke things. It would sound insincere." Well, I said, I'm glad you raised that. You see, it's important to recognize that I don't want you to do anything that sounds insincere or false or patronizing. But please recognize this. Each and every one of us is not just in the business we think we're in. Each and every one of us is, in fact, in the people business. And hard as it is to say this, the truth is that if you can't give out positive strokes to other people, if you can't or don't want to make other people feel good about dealing with you, then maybe you're in the wrong business. Now, it is hard, but it does make sense, doesn't it? So let's just review the standards we've developed so far. Performance Standard 1. Smile to the point of a grin before you pick up your phone. Performance Standard 2. Pick up your phone on the third ring. Just wait 3 to 5 seconds so that you can get your smile on and your attitude online. Performance Standard 3. Use good morning, your company name or an optional departmental name, followed by this is and your full name. Performance Standard 4A. Listen attentively. And that important second part of Performance Standard 4, Standard 4B, give out positive strokes to let the caller know you are listening and that he is important to you. And that leads us nicely to the standard that is arguably the most important standard of all of our performance standards. It's Performance Standard 5. Now this one really is a major key to converting those seemingly casual phone calls into profitable sales. The problem is that because we've never had this standard explained, it is frequently missing. Let's take a look at a couple of examples to illustrate the point.
Good afternoon, Australian Electrical. This is Harry Morgan.
Yes, Harry, it's Paul Dunn, and I'm calling to get your price on the Coolrite Model 934A fridge, please.
Oh, it's good to hear from you, Mr. Dunn. The Coolrite Model 934A. Well, it's usually $729, but it's on special this week at $699.
$699. Okay, well, look, thanks for that. I'll probably call you back later in the day.
Right. Please ask for me, Harry Morgan, when you call, won't you?
Interesting, isn't it? You see, as we discussed right up front in your program, we called Australian Electrical because we're in the market, because we want to buy. And maybe we called Australian Electrical because they spend thousands of dollars on radio, press and TV advertising. Advertising, admittedly, that's mostly crude price advertising, but nevertheless, advertising that's designed to register their name strongly with you to create what's called top-of-mind awareness. Yet, purely because of the way they handled their phone, a vast amount of those advertising dollars have just gone right down the drain. That's bad enough, but the situation is actually much worse than that. All of the money they spent on getting you to call might just as well have gone to their competitor. Why? Because that's who we'd be calling right now, thanks to the way that Harry Morgan handled the call. Sure, he got the early performance standards right, but that critical standard number 5, the one that we'll discover in a few minutes from now, Performance Standard 5, was missing. Here's another example where it, and in this case, a number of other standards too, are missing. Listen in.
Terrific hardware.
Yeah. Do you have any double-sided, extra strong 7cm packing tape in stock?
Hold on a mo. Yeah, we do.
Well, how many do you have?
Hold on a mo. 6.
Right, and what price are they?
They're $563, I think. Hold on a mo. No, they're $666.
Okay, bye. Now, how about these two classic phone calls?
Good morning, Sunshine Airlines. This is Kerry Howard.
Oh, yes, hi. My name's Paul Dunn, and I'd like to know the times of travelling to Sydney, please.
Thanks for calling us, Mr. Dunn. Our first flight is at 7 in the morning. That arrives in Sydney at 8:15. Then there's one via Coolangatta at 7:30. That gets into Sydney at 9:30. There's a direct flight again at 11, followed by our midday one. Then there's one at 3:25, followed by another one at 4, but that one doesn't have business class. Then there's one at 5, another at 6, and our final one for the night gets off at 7:15.
Right, thanks very much. Now you dare ask that person for the fare. And here's our final one for the moment.
Good morning, Kiwi Travel. This is Sarah Knowles.
Yes, I'm Bernard Kelly, and I wonder if you have any brochures available on the New Zealand holidays, please.
Certainly do, Mr. Kelly. Let me take a note of your address and we'll mail one out to you right away.
Okay, it's 108 Harrow Road.
4 phone calls, all with an absolutely common link. And that link is, of course, that not one of them resulted in business. Sure, we've taken extreme cases here to illustrate the point, but the point is still very valid. It's this. Without applying Performance Standard 5, you will get some business. But once you learn to apply this crucial standard in every single phone call, your business growth will amaze you and your people. But here's the sad truth. All of those phone calls we just listened to were, when you reflect on it, fairly typical phone calls. And when you realize that, you realize perhaps just how much business has been slipping through our fingers because we weren't applying Performance Standard 5. Now, if it sounds like I'm giving this next standard a big build-up, you're absolutely right. It deserves the biggest of build-ups. So let me end the suspense. Performance Standard 5 says this: ask questions irrespective. Now, let me say it again. Performance Standard 5 is ask questions irrespective. Now, we'll discover why it's so important on the other side of this cassette.
I hope you got a lot of value today. If you did, click the like button. What that does is help us build our non-profit business school, UBLA. Check out in the description below to find out more about what we're doing and how you can help. This is part of a multi-part series, so keep your eye out for the next video. In the meantime, we've done a great playlist about why do small businesses fail. Check this link over here, and this will show you a great little list about how you can be successful in business. So thank you very much. Catch you again soon.